welcome back to another episode of Kavanaugh's Corner. Today on Kavanaugh's Corner, I'm going to talk about a new film that came out recently. I'm a little late on this, but sadly it kind of went out of theaters kind of quickly. And thankfully there's only one theater nearby that's actually showing it, so I went to go see it, and that is The Post. This is the new Steven Spielberg film starring Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, among many other great actors. But Spielberg, yet again, has just dropped a film out of nowhere, and I can kind of see this doing pretty well at the Oscars, to be honest with you. This is a masterful film. Again, Spielberg really doesn't have to do much to prove that he is an outstanding director. He's done some really good movies over his career. I mean, he's made some of the greatest films of our time. And this here is not one of his greatest films, but it is a damn good movie. The Post is basically, in a nutshell, it is about the whole Pentagon Papers incident that happened in the early 1970s when Richard Nixon was in office. And basically it's a study, a top-secret study of the Vietnam War that was inadvertently released, that the New York Times got a hold of, and they were basically brought to court by the president at the time, and said they were told not to basically publish anything more about these very controversial top-secret papers that they came into possession of. The Washington Post then also got in possession of these papers, and the rest you have to see the movie for. So I'm not going to go into extreme details. I never spoil the movie here at Kavanaugh's Corner, but you should see it. It is a masterful film. Again, it's a true story. All of it is a true story. And if you know anyone that was alive during that time period, you'll know it was a very volatile time in the history of our nation, and the Vietnam War was basically on everyone's mind. Nixon was a very controversial president, much like the one we have in office now, and I can definitely see this movie being a very, very political statement on the times then and now. And honestly, I think the one really great achievement of the film is that this is a very briskly paced film. The film is just a little under 2 hours long, but it didn't feel like it. It was very well edited, and it kept my interest throughout the entire thing, even though I kind of knew what was going to happen, which is, again, something that Spielberg is the master of. Even though he tells something that's a true story, and you may know how it ends, it's still very, very interesting to watch. The last film that Spielberg made that was like this is Bridge of Spies here. And I loved that film. I thought it was a great, great film. And Tom Hanks' performance in that as well was outstanding. I just thought Bridge of Spies was an extremely slow-paced film. But for that movie, it works. You couldn't do a slow-paced movie for this film. You needed something to keep your attention, because most of The Post is people talking on telephones and people sitting down and talking in rooms, much like Bridge of Spies was. But I can tell you, this film is much more quickly edited, it's much faster paced, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great, great film. I also thought that this film was shot exquisitely. I think his name is Kaminski, Janusz Kaminski, who's worked, I probably just butchered his name, but I know his last name is Kaminski. I know that's how they pronounce it, but he is basically been Spielberg's go-to cinematographer over the last couple years. Well, actually, last decade or so, really, maybe 2 decades. He's done a lot of films with Spielberg, but he shot this movie, I mean, it's damn near perfectly shot. The exteriors, the interiors, a lot of the cinematography in this movie is just dead on. And it really did capture that 70s vibe. Even the movie has like a slight grain to it, which I really enjoyed, because a lot of movies shot in the 70s had that kind of filmic grain in it. And I don't think it was overdone in this. I think it was still clear enough where it didn't get distracting. It wasn't like the fake grain they added in like in Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse movies. I don't think they did it to that extent. But I really liked the smoky lighting that they used through a lot of the scenes. And there is a lot of smoking in this film, which I think is it's great, and it's also not great. Again, smoking's not a great thing. I don't advise anyone do it. But the fact that Tom Hanks' character in this film Ben Bradlee, who was the chief editor of the Washington Post at the time, he does a lot of smoking in this movie, and it's interesting to see Tom Hanks smoke. It's not something I'd ever thought I'd see, but it adds to the character. It's really funny. Talking about Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep plays the somewhat new owner of the Washington Post in this, and a lot of the movie has to do with her decision to have them publish or not publish the stories about these Pentagon Papers. And Meryl Streep in this movie is outstanding. Again, just another great performance from her. Then again, when have we had a bad performance from Meryl Streep? Let's be honest. If you can do Mamma Mia and not ruin your career, you're doing something right. Again, she's a great actress, and I think also Tom Hanks in this, he's the real gem in this movie. Tom Hanks he's a joy to watch in everything, and this is no different. It's just another great performance. I love the Ben Bradlee accent he has in this. He really got that accent down. If you've ever seen any old interviews with Ben Bradlee from many years ago, it's like a dead-on impression he does of him in this film. The accent is great, and everything about his performance in this movie was very amusing. And I really liked the way he handled certain scenes where, the scene could be dead serious, and yet, because of his delivery, you got to chuckle. There is a moment in the film where he has a one-on-one meeting with Meryl Streep, and they talk about how things have changed where you can't be someone's friend and report on them in the newspaper at the same time. And it's a very, very heart-wrenching scene, I should say. I think also Bob Odenkirk in this, who's better known for Better Call Saul and his role on Breaking Bad, the same role, I should say, on Breaking Bad. He is outstanding in this movie. He gives a great performance in this. And to be honest, he may be one of the best things in the movie. His performance is very, very emotionally driven, and you can tell he really gave it his all in this. He's outstanding. He's one of the other reporters for the Washington Post, and he just does a great job. I think the film, as I mentioned earlier, is a great statement on, not only our current situation with the president treating the press the way he does, but also it's very good to say that, no matter what happens, no matter who's in office, America has the right to know what's actually going down. And, back then in the 70s when this happened, that Vietnam War was, raging on for over a decade. And, the American public was constantly being lied to. And it's good to know that there's always going to be a reputable news source out there that's looking out for the best interest of the American public. And today, the news, obviously, it ain't the same. Things have changed. Newspapers are very much dwindling. TV news is very either biased or too biased in one direction or not enough in the other. And I think this movie came out at the perfect time to say, no matter what happens, no matter what's going on politically, the news will always be there to inform you. And of course, you have to kind of, pick and choose what news source you're going to read. But if you can find one that's true and honest, the truth will always be there. And no matter who's in charge, no matter who's sitting in the Oval Office, no one is above the law. And I think that's a wonderful message that this film provides, and I think it's worth seeing, and it's definitely worth thinking about. I'm giving The Post a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a masterful film from Spielberg with great performances all throughout. It's a wonderful period piece as well, and it's also a really nice companion to All the President's Men, which is technically takes place after this film. So I kind of wanted to watch All the President's Men immediately after this film ended, because it's like a perfect bookend. You can watch The Post and then immediately jump into All the President's Men, since it really is all kind of taking place in the same time period and all at the same newspaper. So again, Thank you for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more reviews like this, please donate to my Patreon page. The link is down below in the description. As always, I'm Andrew Kavanaugh. We'll see you in the next one. Good night and good luck.